The United States of America, a story of 50 states. In the United States, a state is a constituent political entity, of which there are 50. Bound together in a political union, each state holds governmental jurisdiction over a separate and defined geographic territory where it shares its sovereignty with the federal government. Due to this shared sovereignty, Americans are citizens both of the federal republic and of the state in which they reside. State citizenship and residency are flexible, and no government approval is required to move between states, except for persons restricted by certain types of court orders, such as paroled convicts and children of divorced spouses who share child custody. State governments in the U.S. are allocated power by the people of each respective state through their individual state constitutions. All are grounded in republican principles, this being required by the federal constitution, and each provides for a government, consisting of 3 branches, each with separate and independent powers: executive, legislative, and judicial. States are divided into counties or county equivalents, which may be assigned some local governmental authority but are not sovereign. County or county equivalent structure varies widely by state, and states also create other local governments. States, unlike U.S. territories, possess many powers and rights under the United States Constitution. States and their citizens are represented in the United States Congress, a bicameral legislature consisting of the Senate and the House of Representatives. Each state is also entitled to select a number of electors, equal to the total number of representatives and senators from that state, to vote in the Electoral College, the body that directly elects the President of the United States. Each state has the opportunity to ratify constitutional amendments. With the consent of Congress, 2 or more states may enter into interstate compacts with one another. The police power of each state is also recognized. Historically, the tasks of local law enforcement, public education, public health, intrastate commerce regulation, and local transportation and infrastructure, in addition to local, state, and federal elections, have generally been considered primarily state responsibilities, although all of these now have significant federal funding and regulation as well. Over time, the Constitution has been amended, and the interpretation and application of its provisions have changed. The general tendency has been towards centralization and incorporation, with the federal government playing a much larger role than it once did. There is a continuing debate over states' rights, which concerns the extent and nature of the state's powers and sovereignty in relation to the federal government and the rights of individuals. The Constitution grants to Congress the authority to admit new states into the Union. Since the establishment of the United States in 1776 by the 13 colonies, the number of states has expanded from the original 13 to 50. Each new state has been admitted on an equal footing with the existing states. While the Constitution does not explicitly discuss secession from the Union, the United States Supreme Court, in Texas v. White, 1869, held that the Constitution did not permit states to unilaterally do so. Under U.S. constitutional law, the 50 individual states and the United States as a whole are each sovereign jurisdictions. The states are not administrative divisions of the country. The 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution reserves to the states or to the people all powers of government not delegated to the federal government. Consequently, each of the 50 states reserves the right to organize its individual government in any way, within the broad parameters set by the U.S. Constitution and the Republican guarantee enforced by Congress, deemed appropriate by its people, and to exercise all powers of government not delegated to the federal government by the Constitution. A state, unlike the federal government, has unenumerated police power, that is, the right to generally make all necessary laws for the welfare of its people. As a result, while the governments of the various states share many similar features, they often vary greatly with regard to form and substance. No 2 state governments are identical. Constitutions. The government of each state is structured in accordance with its individual constitution, all of which are written constitutions. Many of these documents are more detailed and more elaborated than their federal counterpart. For example, before its revision in 2022, the Constitution of Alabama contained 310,296 words, which is more than 40 times as many as the U.S. Constitution. In practice, each state has adopted a three-branch frame of government: executive, legislative, and judicial, even though doing so has never been required. Early in American history, 4 state governments differentiated themselves from the others in their first constitutions by choosing to self-identify as commonwealths rather than as states: Virginia, in 1776, Pennsylvania, in 1777, Massachusetts, in 1780, and Kentucky, in 1792. Consequently, while these 4 are states like the other states, each is formally a commonwealth because the term is contained in its constitution. The term, commonwealth, which refers to a state in which the supreme power is vested in the people, was first used in Virginia during the interregnum, the 1649–60 period between the reigns of Charles I and Charles II, during which Parliament's Oliver Cromwell as Lord Protector established a republican government known as the Commonwealth of England. Virginia became a royal colony again in 1660, and the word was dropped from the full title. It went unused until reintroduced in 1776. Executive. In each state, the chief executive is called the governor, who serves as both head of state and head of government. All governors are chosen by statewide direct election. The governor may approve or veto bills passed by the state legislature, as well as recommend and work for the passage of bills, usually supported by their political party. In 44 states, governors have line-item veto power. Most states have a plural executive, meaning that the governor is not the only government official in the state responsible for its executive branch. In these states, executive power is distributed amongst other officials elected by the people independently of the governor, such as the lieutenant governor, attorney general, controller, secretary of state, and others. Elections of officials in the United States are generally for a fixed term of office. The constitutions of 19 states allow for citizens to remove and replace an elected public official before the end of their term of office through a recall election. Each state follows its own procedures for recall elections, and sets its own restrictions on how often, and how soon after a general election, they may be held. In all states, the legislatures can remove state executive branch officials, including governors, who have committed serious abuses of their power from office. The process of doing so includes impeachment, the bringing of specific charges, and a trial, wherein legislators act as a jury. Legislative. The primary responsibilities of state legislatures are to enact state laws and appropriate money for the administration of public policy. In all states, if the governor vetoes a bill, or a portion of one, it can still become law if the legislature overrides the veto, repasses the bill, which in most states requires a 2/3 vote in each chamber. In 49 of the 50 states the legislature consists of 2 chambers, a lower house, variously called the House of Representatives, State Assembly, General Assembly, or House of Delegates, and a smaller upper house, in all states called the Senate. The exception is the unicameral Nebraska legislature, meaning it has only a single chamber. Most states have a part-time legislature, traditionally called a citizen legislature. 10 state legislatures are considered full-time. These bodies are more similar to the U.S. Congress than are the others. Members of each state's legislature are chosen by direct election. In Baker v. Carr, 1962, and Reynolds v. Sims, 1964, the U.S. Supreme Court held that all states are required to elect their legislatures in such a way as to afford each citizen the same degree of representation, the one person, one vote standard. In practice, most states elect legislators from single-member districts, each of which has approximately the same population. Some states, such as Maryland and Vermont, divide the state into single and multi-member districts. In this case, multi-member districts must have proportionately larger populations, Example: a district electing 2 representatives must have approximately twice the population of a district electing just 1. The voting systems used across the nation are, first past the post in single-member districts, and multiple non-transferable vote in multi-member districts. In 2013, there were 7,383 legislators in the 50 state legislative bodies. They earned from $0 annually, New Mexico, to $90,526, California. There were various per diem and mileage compensation. Judicial. States can also organize their judicial systems differently from the federal judiciary, as long as they protect the federal constitutional right of their citizens to procedural due process. Most have a trial-level court, generally called a district court, superior court, or circuit court, a first-level appellate court, generally called a court of appeal, or appeals, and a Supreme Court. Oklahoma and Texas have separate highest courts for criminal appeals. Uniquely, in New York State, the trial court is called the Supreme Court. Appeals go up first to the Supreme Court's Appellate Division, and from there to its highest court, the New York Court of Appeals. State court systems exercise broad, plenary, and general jurisdiction, in contrast to the federal courts, which are courts of limited jurisdiction. The overwhelming majority of criminal and civil cases in the United States are heard in state courts. Each year, roughly 30 million new cases are filed in state courts, and the total number of judges across all state courts is about 30,000. For comparison, 1 million new cases are filed each year in federal courts, which have about 1,700 judges. Most states base their legal system on English common law, with substantial statutory changes and incorporation of certain civil law innovations, with the notable exception of Louisiana, a former French colony, which draws large parts of its legal system from French civil law. Only a few states choose to have the judges on the state's courts serve for life terms. In most states, the judges, including the justices of the highest court in the state, are either elected or appointed for terms of a limited number of years and are usually eligible for re-election or reappointment. Unitarism. All states are unitary states, not federations or aggregates of local governments. Local governments within them are created by and exist by virtue of state law, and local governments within each state are subject to the central authority of that particular state. State governments commonly delegate some authority to local units and channel policy decisions down to them for implementation. In a few states, local units of government are permitted a degree of home rule over various matters. The prevailing legal theory of state preeminence over local governments, referred to as Dillon's rule, holds that a municipal corporation possesses and can exercise the following powers and no others: first, those granted in express words; second, those necessarily implied or necessarily incident to the powers expressly granted; third, those absolutely essential to the declared objects and purposes of the corporation, not simply convenient but indispensable; fourth, any fair doubt as to the existence of power is resolved by the courts against the corporation against the existence of the powers. Each state defines for itself what powers it will allow local governments. Generally, 4 categories of power may be given to local jurisdictions. Structural, power to choose the form of government, charter, and enact charter revisions. Functional, power to exercise local self-government in a broad or limited manner. Fiscal, authority to determine revenue sources, set tax rates, borrow funds, and other related financial activities. Personnel, authority to set employment rules, remuneration rates, employment conditions, and collective bargaining. The 13 original states came into existence in July 1776 during the American Revolutionary War, 1775 to 1783, as the successors of the 13 colonies. Upon agreeing to the Lee Resolution and signing the United States Declaration of Independence. Prior to these events, each state had been a British colony. Each then joined the first Union of States between 1777 and 1781, upon ratifying the Articles of Confederation, the first U.S. Constitution. During this period, the newly independent states developed their own individual state constitutions, among the earliest written constitutions in the world. Although different in detail, these state constitutions shared features that would be important in the American constitutional order. They were republican in form, and separated power among three branches. Most had bicameral legislatures, and contained statements, or a Bill of Rights. From 1787 to 1790, each of the states ratified a new federal frame of government in the Constitution of the United States. In relation to the states, the U.S. Constitution elaborated concepts of federalism. The United States of America is not a single story but a tapestry, 50 distinct chapters bound together by a shared constitution, common ideals, and a complex history. Each state carries its own geography, culture, economy, and memory, shaped by indigenous nations, European colonization, waves of immigration, conflict, innovation, and resilience. Together, they form a nation stretching from Arctic tundra to tropical reefs, from ancient forests to vast deserts, from colonial towns to global megacities. The 50 U.S. states are Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. The Northeastern Foundations. Delaware, the first state to ratify the U.S. Constitution in 1787, is small in size but large in historical importance. Once home to Lenape Native Americans, it became a Dutch and later English colony. Its economy today is dominated by corporate law, banking, and chemicals, and despite its modest population, Delaware hosts more registered businesses than residents. Pennsylvania was founded by William Penn as a haven for religious freedom. Philadelphia served as the birthplace of American democracy, hosting the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. The state grew into an industrial powerhouse fueled by coal and steel, while today it balances manufacturing, agriculture, healthcare, and education. Situated between New York and Philadelphia, New Jersey has long been a corridor of commerce and conflict. It hosted more Revolutionary War battles than any other state. Now densely populated, it blends pharmaceutical innovation, shipping, suburban life, and iconic shore communities. New York's story is one of global influence. Originally New Amsterdam under Dutch rule, it became the Empire State through trade, immigration, and finance. New York City emerged as a world capital of culture, media, and economics, while upstate regions retain agricultural, industrial, and natural significance. Connecticut's early Puritan roots shaped its traditions of education and governance. It played a central role in the American Industrial Revolution, producing clocks, firearms, and machinery. Today it is known for aerospace, finance, and prestigious universities. The smallest state, Rhode Island, was founded by Roger Williams on principles of religious liberty. Its maritime economy once depended on trade and shipbuilding. Coastal life, tourism, and higher education now define the ocean state. Massachusetts is often considered the cradle of American liberty. From the Pilgrims at Plymouth to the Boston Tea Party, it led early resistance to British rule. Today it is a hub of biotechnology, education, and innovation, anchored by institutions like Harvard and MIT. New Hampshire's rugged terrain fostered independence and self-reliance. With its motto "Live free or die," it values limited government and civic participation. Its economy blends tourism, manufacturing, and technology. Vermont's green mountains and rural character shaped a culture of environmentalism and local governance. Once an independent republic, it became the 14th state. Agriculture, maple syrup, and progressive politics define its modern identity. Maine's rocky coast and forests supported fishing, shipbuilding, and logging. Originally part of Massachusetts, it became a state in 1820. Today, it is known for lobster, tourism, and its enduring maritime heritage. The Southern states, tradition and transformation. Virginia was the first permanent English colony and home to many founding fathers. Plantations, slavery, and tobacco shaped its early economy. Today, Virginia balances government, military, technology, and agriculture. Founded as a Catholic refuge, Maryland developed a diverse economy and culture. The Chesapeake Bay shaped its fishing and trade. Baltimore played a major role in American industry and culture. North Carolina evolved from farming and tobacco to furniture manufacturing and now technology and finance. The Research Triangle exemplifies its modern economic transformation. South Carolina's economy was once deeply tied to rice and cotton plantations. Charleston was a major port in the colonial era. The state played a central role in secession and the Civil War, and today blends tourism, manufacturing, and agriculture. Georgia began as a debtor's colony and buffer against Spanish Florida. Atlanta grew from a railroad hub into a global city. Agriculture, logistics, film production, and technology now drive the state's economy. Florida's history spans indigenous civilizations, Spanish colonization, and American expansion. Its climate made it a tourism and retirement center. Today it is a global gateway for trade, aerospace, and international culture. Alabama's past is deeply tied to cotton agriculture and the civil rights movement. Cities like Birmingham and Montgomery played pivotal roles in American history. Manufacturing and aerospace are now key industries. Mississippi's rich soil made it central to cotton production and slavery. The Mississippi River shaped its economy and culture. Blues music emerged here, influencing global music history. Louisiana's French and Spanish roots distinguish it culturally. New Orleans became a center of jazz, cuisine, and trade. Energy, shipping, and tourism drive the state's economy. Tennessee bridges Appalachia and the Mississippi River. Music defines its cultural identity, from Nashville's country scene to Memphis blues and rock and roll. Manufacturing and healthcare dominate today. Kentucky's frontier heritage lives on in horse racing and bourbon production. It played a complex role during the Civil War and now relies on agriculture, logistics, and manufacturing. Born during the Civil War when it split from Virginia, West Virginia's identity is shaped by coal mining and mountain culture. Economic diversification remains a central challenge. Arkansas developed through agriculture and river trade. The Ozarks and natural beauty define much of the state. Retail giants and food production play major roles today. Texas is a nation-sized state with a unique history as an independent republic. Oil, cattle, technology, and space exploration define its economy. Its cultural influence rivals that of entire countries. The Midwest, America's heartland. Ohio became a gateway to the Midwest. Manufacturing, especially automobiles and steel, fueled its growth. Today it balances industry, agriculture, and research. Michigan's identity is tied to the automobile industry. Detroit reshaped global manufacturing. The Great Lakes define its geography, economy, and culture. Indiana's development followed transportation routes like canals and railroads. Manufacturing and agriculture remain central, along with sports culture. Illinois bridges east and west. Chicago became a global city through railroads, meatpacking, and finance. Agriculture thrives across the rest of the state. Wisconsin's dairy industry earned it the nickname America's Dairyland. German and Scandinavian heritage shaped its culture. Manufacturing and tourism remain strong. Minnesota's lakes and northern climate shaped its economy and culture. Agriculture, healthcare, and technology drive the state, alongside strong civic engagement. Iowa's fertile soil made it an agricultural powerhouse. Corn and pork dominate its economy. It also plays a key role in presidential politics. Missouri was the gateway to the West. St. Louis and Kansas City became transportation hubs. Agriculture and logistics remain important. Kansas represents the American prairie. Its history includes violent conflict over slavery. Today, agriculture and aviation manufacturing dominate. Nebraska's plains supported farming and cattle ranching. The Platte River guided westward expansion. Agriculture and insurance anchor its economy. South Dakota blends plains and Black Hills landscapes. Mount Rushmore symbolizes its national identity. Agriculture and tourism drive its economy. North Dakota's oil boom transformed its economy. Agriculture remains central, alongside energy production. The western frontier and Pacific states. Colorado's Rocky Mountains shaped its identity. Mining, agriculture, and now technology and outdoor recreation define the state. Wyoming is sparsely populated but rich in natural resources. Ranching, energy, and national parks dominate its economy. Montana's wide open spaces supported ranching and mining. Tourism and conservation are increasingly important. New Mexico's blend of Native American, Spanish, and Anglo cultures is unique. Art, science, and energy production define its economy. Arizona's desert climate shaped its development. Native American nations remain central to its identity. Tourism and technology drive growth. Utah's settlement by Mormon pioneers shaped its culture and governance. Technology, tourism, and mining are major industries. Nevada's economy grew around mining and gambling. Las Vegas became a global entertainment center. Tourism remains dominant. Idaho's agriculture, especially potatoes, is well known. Technology, manufacturing, and outdoor recreation are growing sectors. Washington's economy spans aerospace, technology, agriculture, and trade. Seattle became a global innovation hub. Oregon's forests, coastlines, and progressive culture define it. Technology, agriculture, and sustainability drive its economy. California is a world unto itself. From Hollywood to Silicon Valley, agriculture to aerospace, it shapes global culture and innovation. Its diversity, economy, and population make it one of the most influential places on Earth. The non-contiguous states. Alaska. Alaska is vast, remote, and rich in natural resources. Indigenous cultures remain central. Oil, fishing, and wilderness tourism dominate its economy. Hawaii. Hawaii's Polynesian heritage sets it apart. Annexed by the U.S. in 1898, it became a state in 1959. Tourism, military presence, and agriculture define its economy. A shared future. Together, the 50 states form a nation defined by contradiction and unity, diversity, and common purpose. Each state contributes its own chapter to the American story shaped by land, people, struggle, and aspiration. The United States continues to evolve, guided by its past and challenged by its future, as 50 unique identities move forward as one nation. Thank you for watching this video.